There have been certain delays to the Mark 1A project. Where are we standing at that today?
The delays are basically because of the disturbance in supply chain due to the COVID. And today also it has not come onto the track.
See, you can't be sitting here saying that somebody comes here to me and asking for you, sell me the product. You should aggressively go and market and do the marketing, understand the strategies within those countries. Today, there are 18 countries defense ministers are coming for, they're already, yesterday I was saying about 16 countries, so they're all showing interest. So it is now our side that how aggressively you are able to push market.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Expert Talk with me, Bhavya Desai. Now, as you know, Aero India 2025 is going on. And did you see the Tejas or the LCA flying over there? But do you know that there's an order which Indian Army or Indian Air Force had put, which is already being delayed? Now that, and along with that, many other conversations which are important for India's defense self-reliance, या आत्मनिर्भर भारत जिसे हम कहते हैं. So for that, I did a panel discussion with some illustrious guests. The guests included like Dr. G Satheesh Reddy, who's a former chairman of DRDO, which researches defense equipment for India. He's also the former scientific advisor to the Raksha Mantri. He just recently retired from there. Apart from that, there was Shri Jitendra, Jadhav, who's the Director General for ADA. Now, he's responsible for actually designing the Tejas aircraft. And also Tejas Mark 2, which is going to come in 2029. The 2026 is when the first prototype will be out and their trials will be going on. Along with them, there was also international person who was the MD and CEO of Tata Lockheed Martin Aerostructures Limited. Now, these guys are the ones who are actually making the empennages of the C-130J military transport aircraft. And we are exporting that from here to the world. So many questions, very interesting things, because for India to realize their dream of becoming a defense superpower, it is important that they produce their own equipment. How are we producing it? Why are we producing it? What is the roadmap of that production? All of these questions are answered in this podcast. So I hope you like this one. And of course, if you like these sort of conversations, then please subscribe to our channel. Please share this with all your friends as well, everybody who likes these sort of conversations, and see you in the next one.
Now, as you know that, as Mr. Desai also mentioned, and everybody in this room also knows that this is the highest budget which has been allocated, of course, this year for the defense production. And actually for the last, I would say about 2 terms of course, our Prime Minister Modi ji, there have been a constant endeavor towards going towards Atmanirbhar and self-reliance. None of this is possible unless we obviously start making our own products. That is where the whole theme is. That's where the intensity, that's where the planning has been for quite some time. If I'm not mistaken, this year, the exports of our country grew at about 32.5%. Also, most of you would already know that the export target that we've set out for the year 2029 is rupees 50,000 crore. And none of this is possible without making our own indigenous products. So I'd like to come to you, Mr. Jadhav, first. How does ADA, of course, making some of the products that we have, contribute towards this indigenization?
Thank you, Mr. Desai. So ADA today, we have almost 4 programs which are sanctioned by government. First is LCA Mark 1, which is already in the production, and we have already inducted about 37 aircrafts to the Indian squadron. And there is about 83 numbers of Mark 1 next version called Mark 1A, where we did a minimum avionics changes and all. And that is in the pipeline, which is going to start induction from 2025 to 2029. We are geared up for production of 16 aircrafts per year today and progressively gearing up for 24 aircrafts per year. So we will be completing this production in next four years. Also, there is almost the talk in advanced stage to buy another 97 numbers of LCA Mark 1A, which will be produced from 2029 onwards, and they will also get at a rate of 24 aircrafts per month. So there is a huge potential for the clear-cut requirement of the government to introduce LC into the fleet. Apart from these, two projects are on drawing board. That is LC Air Force Mark II, which will also indicated about 120-140 numbers of aircraft, which will be get into the production from 2028 onwards. And there is advanced medium compact aircraft, which will get onto the production from 2034 onwards. So the total gambit of the numbers of this aircraft is around 500. Okay. So the industry can gear up for now. We started doing tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers. So we call it as tier 1 suppliers as the direct assembly or structural assembly suppliers, where wing, fuselage, empennage can come directly from the tier 1 industry. And tier 2, of course, all components, LRUs, avionics and all that. As on today, we have about 370 industries getting participated into the LCA for various tires. But now we are trying to improve the tier 1 suppliers, because the architecture, we learned a lot of lessons that architecture is modular in nature, so that directly the assemblies can come from the industry. So there is a huge potential for the clear-cut production aircrafts which are visible, and there is a large potential for the development aircrafts in various subsystems of the aircraft. Thank you very much.
I'd love to talk about some of those platforms up ahead as well, but I just wanted to ask that there have been certain delays to the Mark 1A project. Where are we standing at that today?
Yeah, good, because I was just talking to him that the delays are basically because of the disturbance in supply chain due to the COVID. And today also it has not come onto the track. So, but we are already geared up, and whatever we are having a shortage of components, they are likely to get solved by this February or March. But all the assemblies and all are kept ready. So the rate of production, which we are telling 16 aircrafts per year, but because since we kept all things ready, I think the component comes, the aircrafts will be out. But this is delays mainly due to the supply chain resilience, which we are finding due to the global issue of COVID. So I don't think so. We can help for it, but we can only mitigate the situation by keeping everything ready, which has been taken care by HL already.
Tim, I'd like to bring you in as well at this point of time. Of course, with the Tata Lockheed Martin JV, naturally, it is a very interesting way forward, and also I think a very good example of how a good JV works. From the perspective of indigenization as well, how is it that your company has helped in India achieving those objectives?
Yeah, well, thank you for allowing me to be on the panel. Prestigious and honored. Thank you. And joining my colleagues here. I would like to say that the joint venture between Lockheed Martin and the Tata Lockheed Martin joint venture is the Tata Lockheed Martin Aerostructures Limited, was derived in 2010 And you take a look at the construct of this as far as the joint venture. Actually, there's two joint ventures. One was just a year ahead of us, and that was the Tata Sikorsky Aerostructures Limited in the Telegon area in Hyderabad. From 2009, 2010, and where we are today, the platform that has driven in the TLMAL side was the C-130 empennage. Now, C-130 empennage is a sole source components of 7 components making up the empennage, delivering to Marietta, Georgia. In 2010, we had to come in order to become in the line of indigenous side of this. There's a lot that has to go on, not only with the ecosystem within India and the supply base within India, but you also have to align with the industrialization. And the industrialization side of that says, how do we get to a supply base where we have legacy designs? And by the way, the C-130J just hit the 70th anniversary on August of 2024. So as you see with the legacy in C-130, you have to bring a design concept that drives indigenous side to be more affordable, to be efficient, and how do we get the supply chain base in a ecosystem driving to on-time deliveries and reducing the cost of the aircraft. Everybody in today's environment wants a reduced aircraft cost. How do we build efficiencies to this? And in many cases, you'll find that continuous improvement drives efficiency that drives excellence. And excellence is what we strive. So the partnership in the JV between Lockheed Martin and the Tata Advanced Systems, or Limited, TASL, in Hyderabad has been formed for 15 years. And if you look at the integrity, you look at the mission and vision, our companies have a very like mission and vision to deliver the highest quality product on time. And I can tell you that since that designs of the empennage, we revised the design of the empennage by digitizing. And the digitization of this brings you into a 3D format in a CATIA 5, into a format that allows you to be a one data line system. It allows you to industrialize faster. The engineering data of this is 100% accurate. You can produce parts at a higher rate, faster. And then to bring it in, you have to have a seamless global transition. That's one of the key elements, because you're talking about make in India for India and India content. And then you look at how the exports are going to drive from that. Well, the driving part behind this actually is the indigenous side of this. So over 2,474 parts, we have indigitized 96% of the empennage. Out of that, indigenous within India, we've had over 500 suppliers across the joint venture in India. Out of that, 96% of the indigenized side of the empennage has come through 80 suppliers with 40 majors. You think about that, we indigitized the components to produce in-house in India for the empennage. The exports along those lines have been over $700 million in sales across both of these joint ventures, TLMAL and TSOL. TLMAL itself is around $350+ million of exports sales today. And we're continuing to drive through that indigenization, and we have completed that. Along the lines of indigenization, we've also had the fighter wing that we just now put on as production that we're going to deliver in 2025. Those 29 ship sets that we have right now, we have digitized 74% of that already. We've digitized and indigenous to India. So those two things have coupled with the joint venture at TLMAL that have been very successful in reducing costs, high efficiency, and output.
It's great to actually see that all of this technology is being obviously used, and also that so many components are also getting manufactured. But I wanted to quickly ask you that what is the annual production rate currently, and also how much is the how much is the utilization currently of this?
So yeah, I'll speak to on the joint venture with TLMAL. Right now, our empennage through 2029 is 20 empennages per year to support the C-130 line. Remember, we're sole source on that. We're on time and have met every strategic alignment to the program and master PO on time, every time. We actually accelerated during COVID. We had to go from 20 some up to almost 30 components for that during the COVID. We successfully met that criteria. As we're seeing now, we're running about 20 or 1.8, if you would, per month on the line for the C-130. When you go back in and you optimize facilities and manufacturing always continues to thrive on what's next in line. How do we go in and optimize a facility? We just went in and optimized TLMAL. It's about 450,000 square feet. And we have about 43,000, 47,000 for special processes. But what we've done is we've optimized a facility where I have 4 major bays and I have 1 full bay open for new product, for new components, for lines of business. So the strategic line of this is optimizing the facilities. And that doesn't mean that we don't have opportunity for a greenfield. We don't have opportunities on the site that we have right now to build and expand. And that's what we're working on right now. Where can we leverage the line of business because of our past performance? And as we always say, it's perform, perform, perform. And so we met the criteria. We just need to be optimized a little bit more for open products.
Understand. And for everybody in the crowd as well, who doesn't know, Tim was actually also responsible for he was heading the production of the F-35 in another country before assuming his current role. And there's so much that I actually want to talk to you about that as well. I don't know how much of that you will actually divulge, but I'll come back to that. I wanted to quickly ask you, Mr. Jadhav, the platform of the Tejas Mark II. Yeah. What is it that, leaving aside, of course, any of the challenges that you face, which is not because of where we are having any issues as a country, but what are the key lessons that you've learned from the Tejas Mark I to the Mark II when it comes to designing of the aircraft?
Yeah. So it's a good question because Tejas Mark II, though we call it as Mark II, but it's basically a medium weight fighter because we have gone from the weapon load of 3 ton to almost 6.5 ton. And the complete design has been done with 3D modeling to ensure that the production related design for manufacturing and assembly issues which we are facing into the Mark I can be nullified. I can't say it will be totally fully destroyed, but it can be nullified. So that was the first lesson has been taken, and the complete drawings are getting out in the 3D modeling form, going through the various channels of checks so that we won't face a problem of whatever we faced into the Mark. The second thing is a lot of modularization has been done on aircraft where the complete fuselages has been gone into 3 sections so that the production rates can be made as high as possible. So that is the second lessons we have taken care. The third thing is lot of inspection and optical type of inspection methods has been introduced to hasten up the production as well as the quality. So that is whole thing. And the complete avionics and other systems has been modularized, and that may pay a way to make a production rate as high as possible. The fourth thing is supply chain. So the supply chain for the Mark II is being established during the design process itself. So that is one of the lessons which we started looking for a supply chain after flying the Mark I and finishing the flight test. But here, not like that. The industries has been taken onto the board right from the development stage. So these are the major things. There are a lot more has been done, but these are the major things which we have taken care while developing the Mark II.
Well, it's great that you're obviously talking. Please just hold on to the mic. I have one more follow-up as well. I'm going to open up the floor as well for some questions. So in case anybody has, then please just raise your hand and we'll have the Mike's ferry to you. But before that, I mean, of course, you spoke about the key lessons that you've learned. Along with those lessons, there are naturally a lot of challenges as well which come. Can you highlight a few key ones as well?
See, challenges is basically when we start doing this model-based system engineering and 3D modeling and releasing the drawings and all. What we thought is we can buy some package from the third world countries and we can able to do, but it's not so simple. That much I can tell. Because so many guys will walk into your office and tell, I have this package, that package. I did for Lockheed, I did for Boeing. But when it comes to you, it's a time which we have to put onto it to customize it. So that was the biggest challenge. And second one is convincing industries for the business potential and come forward during the development stage was another challenge. But I think I overcome both the challenges.
Absolutely. Tim, I mean, it's interesting that he's talking about challenges like this, that I just want to understand from your perspective that what is the broader vision when you actually set up a pipeline or a production line for doing what you all do? You know, because there has to be some end goal objective in that respect. And what is the projection over the years? What does it look like? Can you just break that down for us?
Well, as I just mentioned, when you optimize the facility, you look for futures. And part of what we're doing with the TLMAL and the joint venture is we have leverage between Lockheed Martin, OEM, if you will, to the Tata Group and the TESL, including the joint ventures TLMAL and TESL. I say those two because as TESL and the Tata Sikorsky has advanced and the S-92 cabins have been moved out, the part manufacturing and acceleration of that has also helped with the indigenous side of these components. So as you are looking for advancement, part of what we've talked about, and we've talked about the supply chain, I'll mention in just a minute, because that's a key contributor to any new programs as you move forward, ahead of an advance of the need. First of all, for the manufacturing, the capabilities and opportunities we feel is very strong at TLMAL and with our joint venture between Lockheed Martin and the Tata TLMAL organization and Tata Advanced Systems. And that is, when we talk about digitization, we talk about where is the affordability driver? Can you offload as a second source or as primary source other components that's going to give you affordability? And we are looking at that right now, other components within the C-130 that we can move or take a look at options in the business strategy and business capture within India. And that means you digitize the components that brings efficiency, and the 3D modeling is what we just talked about. And that advancement of that is critical in the digitizing 3D model as you bring the data set forward to manufacturing. And then as you bring that model into assembly, you've now bridged the parts to tooling, and you already know up front where those challenges are. You meet those clashes, you figure out those clashes, and then you industrialize a lot faster. So along those lines, in the components, you look at the supply base. So the ecosystem within India, a lot of that has to do with how you set up your supply base. Example, when you bring suppliers on, which we have a large supply base across India, and it's across the regions, and it's expanding. But you have to develop your supply base, and we talked about the ecosystem being very strong right now. But the resilience of this is probably the key to the ecosystem. Resilience has to be one of the top priorities, and that is, how do you build technology into advancing? All these new technologies have got to be advanced. You have to have technology transfer, which our two companies between Lockheed and TLMAL and the joint ventures are doing. So when you leverage that technology transfer, you advance. Now, what does that mean as you get into the supply base? Well, as you're bringing on your suppliers and you do your verify and checklist, you also go back and take a look at the programs. What is the program unique requirements to that drive? And then you take a look at that as what is the special processes that you need to mitigate risk, because risk assessment to the baseline of ecosystem is a key element. Example, in this empennage and then other programs, we went in and said, where do we need to build in, I'll say, other supply special processes? TLMAL brought in the metal-to-metal bonding as one of the first in India. And that metal-to-metal bonding right now, if you look at sheet metal stretch forming and all these other stiffeners and everything to build strength, that metal-to-metal bonding in engineering, when we digitize, drives you right to that efficiency. That takes down the weight, adds the cost and lower cost, and the strengths and everything are within engineering, and you're not certifying any of the aircraft. That metal-to-metal bonding is going on right now at TLMAL. Aligned with that in the special processes, and we're doing that for the Apache 64 right now, A864. We're able to go do that and have this phosphoric acid anodize. So metal-to-metal bonding between other, I'll say, aircraft, including C-130 and C-295. We also are building in with the phosphoric acid anodizing, which is a 13-pit process that we have the availability to do the A864 phosphoric acid anodize, and then the epoxy primer. So, which you don't have to send outsource. You don't have to go outside because that's where you have a short window to put the epoxy or the primer on at that time. So you bring it in-house, you bring it in within India, so you don't have to go outsourcing. So the special processes are a key element to the ecosystem. On top of that, you may have other special requirements that you have across the component program that has to be thought about too. All this has to be looked at in advance. And then you have to, on the resilient side, you have to do a couple things real quick. The resilient side of this is how do you build them up in the technology and advance? First of all, you have to be able to, in your assessment of the supplier, determine what their capabilities and optimization is and efficiencies through throughput, and allows them to go for, do they have the capacity to go do that? Number one, you have to monitor and track those. So the performance matrix is a key piece of this. And the performance metrics come in various forms. We have to use a lot of Tableau. But we also go back in and send a cross-functional technical team in to assess and to stand up and support these ecosystem supply chain companies. And that is, most of the time, it's SCM, engineering, and quality. This cross-functional team goes in, helps establish the supplier, and helps them get up to the point that we need them to be at, validate and verifying their processes. So the AS9100 or NADCAP certification for special processes, all of these are aligned so you make sure that everything is in place, APQP, advanced product quality planning. That's a key element right now to the ecosystem as well. You build in these advanced technologies and you build in these advanced inherited processes, and you'll come out very successful. You have a less risk abatement against the supply chain because it only takes one or two parts and you're stopped, as everybody knows. So we try to mitigate this, build up our suppliers, and resilience is we may have to go in and do advanced technologies to get them up to speed and invest. So we do that along as well.
Right. I'm going to open the floor for some questions if there are any. Are there any questions? Okay, can we please have the mic to gentlemen over there? I'll come back to you. I still have a follow-up question on this.
Okay.
It's a very interesting thought.
Sure.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nanda Kumar. I'm General Manager, Advanced Defense System Navy from Bharat Electronics, Bangalore. Yeah. My question to Mr. Tim. Yeah. You gave us a very clear picture about what challenges are there in case of, developing the supply chain in India and to bring them up to quality standards that require the critical processes. Yes. So my question to you is this, it's very heartening to know that India has exported more than $700 million worth of parts and things like that, components to US. Is there any possibility, how soon you think an entire aircraft will be assembled in India and exported to the US? And would Lockheed Martin, Tata Lockheed Martin, be able to export that to US? That's my question to you. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that as far as the joint venture right now, any aircraft, as with any of the other MTA or other RFPs that are coming out, we'll have to wait for that to come out before we can talk along the lines, and I'll let our BD team and development team take a look at that. As we get through an RFP coming out, then we'll take alignment to that and what it means for assembly or manufacturing. But at this point, I don't have anything further beyond that. But I will say that the capabilities, I will say as part of the JV, we have a very strong capability within the aeronautics and defense sector that we've built up on the manufacturing component side. And that is to be as far advanced as we can, and I'll say leverage within the joint venture between Lockheed and TLMAL and TESOL. It also bridges along with what the Tata Advanced Systems brings to the ecosystem, where we have leverage across functions, where we can pull in leverage of other locations and other places that we can stand up other components. So the advancing of other components it's always on our radar, if you will. And we're always looking for that next step to get to that advance. So I'm sorry I can't answer any further on aircraft. I'd like to see it happen starting tomorrow. But I can tell you that we're standing by ready to support both Lockheed and the Tata and the teaming agreement that we have with them to continue moving forward. But again, I think part of this is really the integrity and the performance that you gain and the performance base that we've been able to stand up against. Because most of this, if you go back and look at the voice of the customer, which it aligns with how well you perform, and I'll say along the lines of the U.S. government too for us, is we have a through the programs, we have what we call voice of the customer. That actually drives back a lot of the checklist of items on how well we performed and how well we performed to delivery or quality of the product. Just as is with your AS 9100 and quality requirements there. So we're very strong in the air defense here. We feel like we've leveraged and we've been a strong partner within the India for both companies and both countries as well. And we look forward to continuing that.
So from a perspective of like exports, when we were actually talking about this conversation, I was mentioning that India naturally has set a very ambitious target of rupees 50,000 crores until about 2029. Amongst that, one of the products which is a possible opportunity is Tejas, the LCA aircraft. In the last 4 or 5 years, naturally, we've vied for some projects. We've come out on the other side of them. And as a country which imports a lot of technology and continues to also build our own indigenous platforms, if Tejas were to export it to some other country, then where does India as such stand from a perspective of transfer of technology?
So far we have got about Tejas export interest from the 13 countries. So that is what is a very important thing. And the pursuance of this is having a lot of different challenges and factors which can get materialized. But coming to the question of TOT, usually when there is a buy or direct buy or a build to print buy happens, so the first technology goes like a CKD, SKD kits, and then it goes into the manufacturing and things. So the first technology transfer always happens for the maintainability, maintenance of the aircraft, and that is how it grows. Okay. So I don't find that suddenly the design technology will get transferred by any of the country to any third world countries when we sell the aircraft. So that is point number one. So the manufacturing technology goes into the stages which you people knows, and always the core manufacturing remains into the country, and the maintenance, repair and after service will get transferred. GSE, GHE, which we call it as ground handling equipment, ground support equipment, that technology gets transferred. So the technology transfers goes from level 3 and then subsequently, because everything is, somebody has to pay money for you. Okay. So everything goes like that. But build to print is the thing which will go first and then it subsequently takes up forward.
Right. Dr. Reddy, would you like to add something to that?
He's the right man to answer on the technology transfer and related, and I think he gave the right answer. As of today, India, I don't think it will straight away look at the transfer of the technology or the whole manufacturing technology. Firstly, you need to look at exports, manufacturing here, and then maintenance and things like that. Probably as the orders go and things like that, and as the numbers go, as the time progresses, yes, definitely, probably the manufacturing technology also could be transferred. See, only manufacturing technology. Many countries, many aircrafts are also being manufactured elsewhere. Even see, they have been talking about F-16, F-18 technology transfer also for manufacturing and things like that. So when you say actually manufacturing, what happens is it is not that the whole aircraft, every component is manufactured. Let's say engine will be coming from wherever the engine is manufacturing that house. It will not be transferring the whole thing. It doesn't happen like that. So it is a progressively happening sort of a thing. It should happen. My feeling is, the focus for India should be how actually effectively we are able to market our products. See, you have now today enough systems and products, whether it is talking about Tejas aircraft or various other products. So India should, whatever 50,000 crores or even beyond that, whatever it is, see, you can't be sitting here saying that somebody comes here to me and asking for you, sell me the product. You should aggressively go and market and do the marketing, understand the strategies within those countries and market it. You have enough chances. Today, there are 18 countries' defense ministers are coming for this Aero India. There are already, yesterday I was saying about 16 countries have shown in varieties of Indian products interest in purchasing. So they are all showing interest. So it is now our side that how aggressively you are able to push market. And also you actually increase the production lines is here also. You have to plan for it. He wants to export LCS today, then HL has to gear up for that production lines today. See, his own 123 aircrafts are there to be given. We are also hearing the news of another 100 aircrafts Air Force is looking for. So if that also comes to 223 aircrafts, even if you take a period of about, let's say, 6 years, so you are almost about 35-40 aircrafts per annum you need to produce. So over and above that, let's say 200 aircrafts order has come. That means you need to make it about 60 or 70 aircrafts per annum. So that production lines also you should gear up and do it. That's where the focus should be. See, I don't think any country will today ask for you transfer me the technology straight away, manufacture the aircraft inside. Maybe they ask for something else and all that, but for aircraft, I don't think they will straight away go, because you mostly transfer this, mostly you will be selling to third world countries. I don't think they have the wherewithal to straight away manufacture, even if you transfer the technology today. That's what I feel.
Understand. We spoke a little bit about that in terms of the production line before you, of course, joined in. Also, but please.
No, I just forgot to say my apologies to everyone that I came late here, because there was an event of Raksha Mantri ji, and that event got delayed, and so as soon as the event is over, I came running here. So sorry, my apologies to everyone. Yeah.
So it's interesting you spoke about, of course, these. What are the areas that you see in terms of the ambitious export target that we've set of 50,000 crores for 2029? Which are the areas that you feel?
There are many areas. See,
can you highlight some of them?
Let me say today, you have the ATAX gun. Already market started. Okay, number one. Then you have varieties of radars, which are actually started already selling now various countries. Then you have the huge varieties of missiles. You talk about ATGMs, you talk about SAMs, you talk about air-to-air missile, anyone. Now you have got the tanks. You can do the tanks also. Now the lightweight tank is already there in the picture. So one of the very attractive item for the lightweight tank. Now then FIC is also going to come. Another important thing. We have 2 torpedoes in line today for selling. 2 torpedoes are there. So then you have the aircraft. So you have varieties of products which are there. Leaving aside, I'm not talking about subsystems. It's a huge market. Actually, subsystems, leaving aside systems, subsystems is a huge market. See, there are many countries, even including the advanced nations like US and all that, they may not like to buy a full system from you, but there will be a lot of interest to buy the subsystems. In fact, I've studied and done and made a paper and submitted to the government also. The subsystems market is huge. Even if we assume the market potential, what is there in the world for the subsystems, and in that, what is the India's capability if you look at it, and if you look at about 10% of that, you assume that is going to be your market, even on the You have more than $10 billion market. That's the size. So, and Indian subsystems are very good. You look at, I think Dr. Jadhav will say today in his own aircraft, all the subsystems, we talk about the whole lot of machine computers, HUDs, head-up displays, talk about even the actuators, hydraulic actuators, landing gear system. So many things they have developed here in the country, and it's a huge market for supply chain. So you look at the same way, you talk about seekers today, you talk about other systems, various things and all that. These are all part of the systems which you should market, and people will be very happy to have from India. Even though I'm saying the developed nations, you come from here, it's a lower price and you will be able to get it. And it's good where our MSMEs, not the bigger industries, also will flourish in a big way. But then, how does he market? Each man, there is somebody sitting here having about 50 crores turnover or 60 crores turnover here. Where is the wherewithal for him to go around the world and to market it? So that system needs to be created in the country. So you have, I feel 50,000 crores can be achieved very easily if we have the marketing strategies and we have create a mechanism for the marketing. So whole lot of systems are there, subsystems and systems.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of people over here who naturally are entrepreneurs as well, who are obviously in this industry, who definitely look at this opportunity as a very interesting thing. And also, as you clearly mentioned, that marketing is the key. Of course, leaving aside the performance, which naturally needs to be at its best, but then marketing is very critical.
No, there are no questions of performance. I'm saying that performance, the subsystem, whatever is supposed to meet the performance, it meets. Actually, there is nothing, there is no underperformance or overperformance or anything. So you need to make it. And see, yes, there is a question of standards.
Yes.
Okay. The standards is a question mark today. Why? See, suppose I need to supply it to Airbus or Boeing. What he has developed here is a Similac certified product. Similac certification probably even maybe stringent also or whatever it is. Is that product acceptable to those nations or those manufacturers as it is? Or otherwise you have to bridge a gap, or you understand and make that Indian standard is also equivalent to that, and making is a question mark. Right. Or otherwise you come out with a BIS standard. Is that acceptable to the, let's say, Europe or US you are trying to supply? Is a question mark. Otherwise, I don't think any other issue with respect to the performance and all that should be there. It meets whatever is. It is built to spec.
Jadhav, you wanted to add something? I saw you reaching for the mic. No, please, if you have.
As Dr. Satheesh Reddy has put very correctly, the problem is in the civil domain of aviation, there is a TSO standard which gets applicable all over the world. But in the military, there is no such a common standard. So that's the only problem of exporting military items. So that's a very valid point he has brought. Just I wanted to tell that.
Understand. Great. I understand that somebody had a question over here, please.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Girish, sir. I am from Rotary Connectors Private Limited, Bangalore. My question is to Dr. Jadhav. Sir, with the, respect to the LCA Mark 1 and the previous programs and what's in the under development like the AMCA and LCA Mark 2, what are the indigenization targets and where we are progressing with that?
So today, LCA, we have reached almost 62 to 63% of indigenization. And we have taken up a large drive through technology development funds and also from the technology development other programs to bring this indigenization for Mark 1 to minimum 72 to 75%, because ultimately the engine and many other parts are there. However, LCA Mark 2, it is a different, because the engine itself is getting manufactured over here, and in the during the production, the manufactured engine will be here. So LCA Mark 2, we are planning to go from 85 to 90%, and similar percentage to the AMCA. And slowly we'll go to 95% also in both the aircraft. So that's the plan.
In fact, I want to add and support whatever you said by giving another way of the numbers. See, out of total 357 items they have identified in LCA. In that, 200 items have already been indigenized and industry started producing. 57 items, actually they are already under the advanced stages of development. That means 257 are over. Now left out is somewhere around 90 items or something which are also being taken up. Just adding to what he said. He only gave me the data day before yesterday. So I'm telling you that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Interesting, but he's reserving his right to not share it here. But of course, you would. Thank you so much. Yes. Great. If there are any other questions, please just raise your hand. I see one at the back. I'll just come to you. Just 1 second. I just want to bring Tim in as well. Tim, what is they're talking about indigenization and of course, considering the platforms that you are doing here, is there an opportunity to integrate more products into indigenization process currently for us?
Yeah, good question. And like I'd mentioned, between the C-130 empennage, we're at 96% indigenized parts. And what I mean is 96% indigenized is also have been digitized, so into 3D modeling set. So as we're building into the fighter wing as well, we're at 74% of indigenized of the manufacturing of the detailed parts. So the 96% by volume is one of those that sets the standard to some of those that's direct buys and things that you cannot control. But along the lines of future work, like I said, we've optimized the facilities. We have open capacity and utilization that we can build upon different components. And I'm talking along the lines of C-130 right now and other lines of business within the Lockheed Martin companies, between Lockheed Martin and the joint ventures. With that, we're working on the C-130 right now, other components, and where we're looking at digitization. Digitization, as I mentioned, is the model for the 3D modeling that everyone is working to digitize. That's how the platform of supply chain works today on manufacturing. Everybody wants the model. They don't want a 2D legacy. And a lot of those have been changed for that reason. But again, it has its efficiencies. It has its in manufacturing and faster industrialization. So as we build upon, and then also you have to have a global transition that is seamless. And that's the other element that has to happen with every component you bring in. So the seamless global transition is probably a key to this. And we're building upon those on other components, looking at what it would be for affordability, the initiatives for the aircraft, and then future component builds that would drive into other aircraft possibilities. So you have to look at those when you're back from right to left, and that's what we're working on. But working on some of those right now on other components, and actually we're working on some digitization right now that's actually advancing that.
Understand. Great. Can we please have the question at the back?
Yeah. This question is to Mr. Jadhav. You just mentioned that by the time you reach AMCA, you would indigenize 95% of whatever like components or the entire system. What is the remaining 5% that is missing?
See, what happens is when we talk of indigenization, we talk a total cost of foreign exchange which we put. Okay. So today I think the components of electronic components and materials and all, we are still depend upon the foreign source. So I think you got the answer of your question.
Sir, there's one more question, but then on this line, I can't let you, I mean, I'm really trying to hold back in that respect, but since I have all of you here, I really want to ask this question because, and also it's great that he actually brought this up. And if you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm going if I sense the direction was right, I'm just going to put it out there and really ask, clear cut. Engines have been our Achilles heel for the longest time. For us to create any platform which naturally one gets exported, and also of course to fulfill our own self-reliance, Atmanirbhar. How difficult it is, and why is that an Achilles heel for us? If you all would like to give your perspective on that. Please.
See, firstly, when we talk about an engine, let's say we are talking about now today 414 equivalent, or otherwise we are talking about 110 kilonewtons engine. There are certain aspects which are a little critical in that. One is materials and materials processing technology, and also the manufacturing technology, like single crystal blades or something like that, are the high-end parts of the engine. So they are the critical which you are trying to do it. See, basically the country, what happens is your development is always linked to a end product. Unfortunately, what happened is our engine program and the aircraft program, they went in a diversified directions. See, when we started LCA program, I think the LCA program specifications are evolved over years. Okay. And whereas you have defined some parameters for the engine and the engine program started in that direction of the specification. So when the LCA came out, these two were not in anywhere matching terms. So the program didn't find an user, so naturally it doesn't progress the way it is. And you have established other line, it went. This is how. So now the country is supposed to go ahead and get the engine development. There are a lot of efforts going on. And I'm sure actually the way things are going on, the way this technology is, and almost today, at least about 66% of or 70% of those products are already available within the country. Maybe the remaining 30% in the next 1 year to 2 years, our country should be able to develop that. So after that, maybe about 8 years or 7 years from there, you should have an engine. I don't know which is equivalent, whether it's for LCA Mark 1 application or Mark 2 applications or AMCA applications and all that, which they have to decide. But country will be in a state where you will come up to that engine you should be able to develop. That's what I strongly feel. But at the same time, actually, our country, I always see one, I don't know whether here people are, we actually don't focus on what we have. We always focus on what one item we don't have. We keep on harping on that. Actually, when I went to Delhi in 2015, in a missile seeker was not developed. Right from top to bottom, a lowest employee, possible an officer in MOD, to probably everybody in the highest level to the minister, you talk about a missile, they will talk about where is your seeker. So luckily seeker is developed now, that is top, and now engine is there now. Engine, where is the engine and all that. See, you go to Embraer aircraft. Is Brazil making everything in the country? Is it making? They are also buying from here and there and all that. I am not advocating that we should not make an engine, we should not be self-reliant and all that. You make an effort, but that you don't bring everywhere. I am not telling you, I am talking about everyone also. Don't bring that as a strong negative point for you not to have an aircraft here, not to export an aircraft and all that. There are everyone who is exporting an aircraft without engine, without many products. And you talk about even GE today engine, he has supply chain from all over the world for him to come in. That not that GE is making within years only everything. So this is the thing. So we should understand somehow we are all very happy to criticize ourselves in what is not there with us. We are only evolving country. We are not the people who are such a rich country to develop parallelly 100 things at a time. We are very strongly moving. I am sure that you see in the 5-6 years, I think you reach whatever you said, 90% in everything. I think I am very, very, very hopeful about it.
I see a lot of arms that have been raised. Can we please start with you?
So good evening, sir. My name is Karthik. I am representing Aerospace Engineers Private Limited. My question to Satheesh, sir. Sir, like if you take other industries, we are moving at a very concrete and speedy pace of moving towards Industry 4.0, 5.0. But when it comes into aerospace, that same pace is not there because of the stringent certification requirements. So what is the plan from our government to catch up with that speed of Industry 4.0 or meeting to the Industry 5.0 for the aerospace and defense ecosystems? Thank you, sir.
There are two aspects actually in this. Both Ministry of Defense and also Civil Aviation Ministry are working on that, how to build the capabilities and also to build the facilities, state-of-art facilities which are required in the country for the manufacturability of these critical items with the latest technologies and the Industry 4.0 or plus and all that. In fact, I want to tell you just day before yesterday, the Minister Civil Aviation took with all the ministries about 3 hours plus discussion on all these aspects of manufacturability, capability development in the country and facilities what are required, whether you talk about high-end press, hydraulic press, isothermic press, or various other facilities which are required, or the manufacturing and testing related facilities and all that. So there has been a concentrated effort both from Ministry of Defence and also Ministry of Civil Aviation, leaving aside Ministry of Industries, to support these facilities to come up in the industry. Probably soon we'll see some of these critical infrastructure and facilities should be coming up in the country, probably public-private model. Very soon that should be coming up with these facilities. That's what I feel.
We'll take one more. I still see one more hand at the back. Okay, we'd love to take your question.
So we are talking about the technology from the last 30-40 minutes. So the technology now can go obsolete over a period of 10 years, right? Something we have seen 10 years back is now obsolete. So we believe that there is always a fundamental thought process we need to draw of compatibility versus the capability metrics, especially in the aerospace and defense industry. So how often we do that in our manufacturing processes?
Who are you? Can you please, Mr. Jadhav?
So basically, in the today's era of manufacturing and design, we go for a basic open architecture based systems. Okay, so these open architecture systems, because the obsolescence threat is basically from the components and electronics mainly. So with the open architecture systems, this obsolescence has been mitigated to the larger extent. I cannot say fully the extent. Now coming to the airframe and other things which are there I think the obsolescence of the materials which you may say. So the parallel actions has been taken to have alternate materials available till they get obsolescence or they may get this thing. Usually materials won't get obsolescence, but only thing is there will be a short supply. That is the basic problem for the materials. So that has also been taken care to take care of obsolescence. The alternate materials has been already identified, and I am trying to tell you that we have taken a lot of steps to indigenize the lot of materials coming to the aluminum all. And as Dr. Satheesh Reddy sir told, if this facilities gets established, we will have almost all the material indigenized. So that obsolescence and strategically holding up of material issue will get solved. And the other thing is like, if you see what gets obsolescence is the other sensors and all that components, which are all almost indigenized things which we are putting. So lot of steps has been taken while designing these new aircrafts to take care of obsolescence.
Thank you. Just like, of course, as we all know that the life cycle of any platform, especially when it's developed, then it's usually kept at least 20, 30 years in mind. And then naturally it keeps getting upgraded. But that's a very interesting question that he asked, and I just wanted to follow up on that. Today, of course, we are designing the Tejas Mark II. By the time it gets designed, developed, and out, what is the generation that it will be at? One, and what is the expected capabilities that we can imagine out of it?
So, this question was asked to me 3-4 days back also.
I was not there for sure.
Yeah. So the thing is like this. It's all nowadays the aircrafts are adaptable. Okay. So let us say 5 years down the line, there is some new radar technology has come. So which is all the construction I told it's very modular in nature. So the things are adaptable type designs has been done. So I don't find or weapons. So weapons are also adaptable. Structure all the weapons has been now interfaces are standardized. That is 1760 standard. So anything growing from the weapon point of view for the operational capability and all, they are adaptable. Now the sensors are adaptable. So I don't find any issue of 5 years down the line that this will be the old generation aircraft and all. That thing has gone nowadays because the avionics, if you design with the open architecture and with the standardization of interfaces and all, these adaptations will keep growing, happening, and the aircrafts will be kept always to the contemporary generation.
So would you like to add something?
He has answered that, and that's the process in the aircraft industry. What happens is, any aircraft you make that has a life of about 30-35 years minimum. So nobody can decide today what is going to be after 30 years or 25 years. So you need to keep upgrading. So you see today even Su-30 we are upgrading now aircraft, and we are still MiG-21s going on. So you need to keep upgrading. So as per the technology which is coming, and if you are actually, your architecture is open architecture, you will be upgrading with the state of the art systems or sensors or various other things which are coming. You should be able to do it as it comes through. So, but it's nothing like it takes a minimum a decade plus for a system to go for another upgradation minimum. My feeling is, so that's the change which has to go through. And so that time you call it whatever the technology is coming, 6.5, whatever it is, you say that whatever it is coming, that will be the technology that day. And today, you see, that's why he says, when he says AMCA today, or even Mark II, he will call it as 4.5. And he calls it AMCA 5.5. I don't know, tomorrow he will say it is 6 also. I don't know. That is the way it keeps on going on as for the thing. Many things, structures, fuselage and other things, engines, they remain the same, and probably controller will be changing.
Understand. I'll just take one more question if it's there from the audience. That will be the last question. But I actually want to just ask one more thing which you just mentioned. And I mean, and again, I don't mean to probe, but then the thing is that because the conversation is so stimulating, it always brings a lot of questions. Now, to both of you, now, by the time we finish developing the Tejas Mark II, naturally, I understand from that perspective, and it is a work in progress, it takes a lot of time. Do you not feel that as a country who's obviously looking to indigenize and develop a lot of our own platforms, the world today is already discussing, talking, working, and also in reality, also already having 5th generation aircraft. By the time we are out in that respect, do you not feel that I'm at least looking at a decade in terms of it finishing certification, development, by the time it gets inducted, I'm assuming it will be around that much time. Do you not feel that we will still be behind in that respect?
I don't think so, because there are the strategies of the defense by any air force. So what happens is, there are a category of aircrafts like light combat, medium combat aircraft, and then the 5th generation aircraft. So I don't think so any country will afford that all aircraft should be 5th generation aircraft, because the purpose of that aircrafts are different, and the cost of this aircraft, maintainability and all these things is a very huge cost penalty has to be put. So the Air Force, any Air Force has got a strategy. How many should be there as a light combat aircraft, which is at the back end, then the medium combat aircraft, which is at the front, and then the deep penetration, which we call it as seed type of aircraft. So this 5th generation category goes into the seed type of aircraft, and then the numbers required for any of the country for this 5th generation aircraft are minimal, because it has to be affordable. So always we cannot say the requirement is based on the generation of the technology of the aircraft, but it could be a generation of the technology of the sensors and all that, which I already told can be adaptable. So the question lies is, 5th generation aircraft has their purpose and their requirement will be very restricted. However, 4th generation aircraft, which are medium weight category aircraft, their requirement will be huge. Dr. Satheesh Reddy sir will agree with me. If we become a Mark II successful, the requirement of pumping Mark II into the squadron will be much, much higher. And then the generation starts for the sensor adaptation, weapon adaptation, which is always a part of the game. So that's how it will be. So there is no need of worry about 5th generation, where we will stand.
Understand. Can we just take one last question, and that will be the close of this panel discussion? Please.
Meantime. See, we discussed a lot about aircraft, but the space ecosystem didn't get mentioned. So, with the permission of the panel, you know, the Indian defense sector, civilian side, we were doing well from space, but in the defense sector, it's post-Kargil, you know, 2000 onwards, Indian defense sector started using space. 2007, they owned the first satellite built by ISRO, you know, 1 meter resolution, Cartosat 2E. And when Dr. Satheesh Reddy was chief of DRDO, DRDO and ISRO together built an ELINT payload, you know, in space. So today, Indian defense sector has got about 10 satellites with them, with optical, microwave imaging, all weather imaging, ELINT and communication satellites together. And thanks to the reforms that has happened in space as well as defense sector, and today, you know, Indian DSA coming into existence and space sector with reforms being introduced, the whole ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, need of even defense sector is thrown open to the private industry. Because I am formerly from ISRO, for 45 years I was with ISRO, and now advisor to few space companies, private companies and startups. So it's a great opportunity that is reforms happening in this ecosystem. And probably I foresee with the kind of budget sanction which Dr. Satheesh Reddy can give a high-level perspective probably for a minute, with about 5,000-6,000 crores allocated. In the coming 2-3 years, Indian defense sector could as well have 50 to 60 satellites of their own. So the requirement could be more than 250. And this will also open up an opportunity for Indian industry to become, you know, somebody looking for the global share of ISR capabilities.
Firstly, for you, I don't have to tell anything, everything you know. You have been in the field and you know, and you are seeing the private sector also today. As you rightly said, one thing is country started feeling definitely space as the fourth dimension of warfare, and particularly at least for the surveillance applications and all that. And so country started working, DSA has come and many other things have come into picture. A lot of industries have come up and a lot of startups have come up and activities have taken place. In fact, none other than our country, at least to show the technological prowess, we have done the Mission Shakti anti-satellite test also. And even though India is against weaponizing the space, but then to show the technological capabilities as other countries have shown, you also have to show that. But today, in the space sector, one is government, what it is doing. The startups and industries have come up in a big way. And varieties of capabilities are being developed in the country. And yes, government has come out with many mechanisms, whether it is in the defense IDEX or technology development funding, or when we see the ANRF, which has been created, National Research Foundation with huge funding, or other mechanisms which have been created, and the budget for the R&D in these sectors, what has been allocated in the latest budget speech. So a lot of encouragement is there. And I strongly feel that we should have mechanisms in such a way that we are able to leverage the capabilities what the startups and private industries have got in a very simplified, simple, non-bureaucratic manner, such a way that the people are able to avail these facilities. I feel that there are lots of capabilities which are there, which are probably first of its kind facilities. I feel still our own deep tech startups in the country are starving for funds. All said and done, deep tech startups, which there is a good amount of risk, and you don't reach to 2.0 or anything immediately or go into B-type funding and things like that, where we need to fund those things in a much simpler and easier and way, so that even if 5% of it, 10% of it comes from those deep tech startups, the country stands very tall and you will be in the frontiers of these technologies which are coming up. So now we somehow see that like DARPA. the risk factors are very, very high. You see, what is the success rate and things like that. That it has to be. If you think I'm funding something, success rate should be very high, then that means it is already conceptualized and it is not that's something R&D you are doing. In R&D, if there is no risk, it is not true R&D. Actually, you need to do that. So we need to look at that, how we are able to leverage that and how we are able to fund our own organizations or the startups in these areas and mentor them. And sure, the country is actually, the young generation is coming up in such a way. Wonderful things are happening in the country. In the space sector itself, if you look in Bangalore particularly, you look at, there are many things which are happening which we have not thought about. So those things we have to find better mechanisms to leverage these capabilities which are risky. This is what I feel. Then what I mean to say, then we will be leading whatever we are thinking. Not only self-reliant, but we will also be with other countries in the frontier areas. The way the technologies are coming up, definitely we should be able to do it. So that's what I feel. There is a good amount of funding is what is required.
Thank you so much for that question. And as you rightly said, actually, because in a conversation like this, we can actually go so horizontal in terms of the topics and the conversation, but then we have to kind of keep it a little bit more structured considering the sort of panel that we have. Hence, we've not really included a lot in terms of space as well. Otherwise, there's so many questions which are coming to my mind. But of course, we have a program to get on to as well. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for this lovely panel discussion. I hope you had fun, and to all of you as well, I hope you found it engaging and interactive as well. Once again, please a huge round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you. As usual, you have been an excellent moderator.
Thank you.